Morning. I saw some fascinating posters this morning in Bloomingburg, and if I were like a sociology professor studying the Hasidic community, like, I don't know, and Egon Mayer passed away. Who's the big one now in Queens College? I forgot his name. See, now it happened, like just like I thought. I would be just totally fascinated by these posters. What's that guy's name? He wrote a book recently, Who Will Lead Us? I don't remember his name, but anyway. And then years ago there was the other guy who wrote the book, The Island and the City. Was the name Israel Stern? I don't remember his name either. But in any event, it's quite a fascinating situation here. So what I'm most fascinated by, there was about 4 different posters, very well made, very professional posters, to encourage people to go out and vote tomorrow. Tomorrow is election day, and in New York, mostly, I guess all over the state, there are a lot of local elections. So, for example, in New York City, they're voting for mayor. And in most of the towns and counties, voting for town supervisor and county supervisor, county executive. So, as well as legislators in the town and county level. So in my town, I live in the town of Bethel, so we're voting for town supervisor, we're voting for legislators, we're voting for town legislators, we're voting for town judge, 2 judges. Most of the people who are running unopposed, as far as I know. I'm not that happy about it personally. I would rather have a choice. I had an interesting thing. One person who I'm voting for, the fellow who sold me this car for town legislator. I forget what they call it exactly. It's a fellow named Crumley. So I ran into him, not this past Shabbos, the Shabbos before, and he told me something very interesting. I've been working for the Board of Elections for years. Tomorrow will be like the first election day since I moved here that I'm not working on election day, and I'd like to do it again. Just right now with my new job and everything, it seemed like it's good for me to skip this time out, and then I'll probably do it again. I told him, I would like to go to the next training. I should take the test though, and this way, I have to see. When is the next thing? But I'll go to the next training, God willing. I'll plan to. I do enjoy, doing election day. It's something I look forward to, something I enjoy. Get to know people in the community and everything. But, one thing, they told us, you are allowed to undervote. And if you overvote, then the whole thing on your going across is voided. So the person who I'm planning to vote for tomorrow, so he told me, he said, are you interested in any of the other 2? There are 3 people running for 2 seats, so 2 of them have to win. So do you have any special relationship with any of the others? Any reason you want to vote for them? I'm like, no, not really. They're both Democrats. I'm a registered Republican. Even though I might not agree with everything the Republican Party stands for, it's definitely, on the local level, generally, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Party lines as much as on the national level. mean, look at our senator. What a disgrace! This Chuck Schumer is. So, oh, I'm your shomer. I made the hashtag not my shomer. So. I mean, thank God we have a good congressman. Faso, he's wonderful, and he's a real mensch, and he's a real statesman. You feel tremendous gravitas when you're in his presence. This is a man who really brings tremendous prestige to the office, as did his predecessor, Chris Gibson, another wonderful person. Both just fantastic people, and it's a tremendous sense of pride, and I look forward to voting for him again next year for John Faso. And it was an honor to meet him over the summer, and I thank the Sullivan JCC for inviting me. So in any event, here we are. So I was talking about this. So, first I want to finish about my local elections. So the fellow, now in these small towns, people can win by just a handful of votes. So, so these small towns, like we had a case in our town. So there's a fellow who lives 3 doors away from our shul, Jewish guy, and he was running for judge. And this is before my time, or it was not before my time, but when I wasn't living. I mean, I've been coming to Rabbi Fishbain's shul. Purim will be 20 years now. And I was like 14 years old. So this Purim, that'll be 20 years. So it's a very special thing for me. But I'm here in and out. But as other times, whatever. I guess this might have been when I was, living in Queens or living in Yerushalayim or in Richmond. I'm not sure exactly when this happened. But there was a fellow who was running for judge. And he's Jewish, and he didn't want to show up, and we had 9 men in our shul for Mincha Shabbos. Mincha Shabbos takes 10-15 minutes, especially you can up daven fast, people are in a rush. I've done Shabbos Mincha, I think, in 5 minutes with laning. Especially like sometimes in the winter, you can make Mincha early, and people, are nice enough to stay for another 10-15 minutes, whatever, so then we try to do it quickly so people can be on their way. Maybe I can fix this windshield now that we're slowed down. I wonder, can I do this? Will this catch? There we go. I did it. So I realized what's the issue with my windshield wipers is if I have the windshield wipers when I'm going over 40 miles an hour, it gets stuck. I think the wind resistance. So hopefully hopefully I'm going to talk to somebody, find out. Hopefully if I just change the thing, it'll fix it. Oh, now it's time for the Writer's Almanac. Let's listen to the Writer's Almanac. Actually, we can listen along, right?
He spoke with a Western twang. He was gap-toothed, never finished high school, but he believed in accuracy. He pioneered the use of fact-checkers for everything, including cartoons and fiction. Harold Ross, who said, "If you can't be funny, be interesting." It's the birthday of Michael Cunningham, born in Cincinnati in 1952, author of the novel The Hours, inspired by Virginia Woolf's novel Mrs. Dalloway. And it's the birthday of John Philip Sousa, Washington, D.C., 1854. His dad played trombone in the U.S. Marine Band. And by the time the boy was 13, he could play violin, piano, flute, cornet, baritone, and trombone.
Wow.
And he was a pretty good singer. Went on to lead the Marine Band and write marches, Semper Fidelis, Washington Post March, The Stars and Stripes Forever, as well as a dozen light operas.
Really? Poems I don't
Here's
like
a
so
poem
much.
for today by Richard Allen Taylor, The Next Generation of Mourning.
Maybe this is
I have begun, like my mother before me, to cross out names. She lived to read the obituaries of all her friends.
It's like a
In my
6-point
generation, the first girl I ever kissed is dead. Complications of pneumonia. I saw the email on the way from something important to something suddenly not, and felt nothing, as if a high-powered bullet had passed through me without hitting heart or head or bone. Later, the ache, as I remembered when we were 16 in a state of mutual crush and rode to the lake, that parent-approved, church-sponsored alternative to a real beach trip with tiki bars and carnal temptations, and made out in the...
It's already getting that sneeze. Alright. So anyway, so this fellow, he, see, that's the problem with NPR. Sometimes not sneeze. So anyway, let's see. Turn this down. So this fellow, we asked him to come. The Rav went over to his house. He lives 3 doors away from the shul. We told him it would take 10 minutes. And he's running for judge. We asked him to come for mincha. And then he said, I'm busy. He said, well, what are you busy with? Trying to get votes? He said, yeah. Well, so you have 9 people, 9 men and their wives. That's 18. They'll all vote for you. If you come to Minyan, how many, he said, well, they'll vote for me anyway. He said, don't be so sure of that. He said, they know you're not going to show up for Minyan. He said, oh, Rabbi, you give me a hard time. So, in the way the rabbi tells, he said that, I told him, my wife and I will still vote for you, but I can't promise everybody else. And he said he didn't even vote for him after that. And so he called everybody on his list. He said, don't vote for the Yid, vote for the Goy. That's what he said. Anyway, Rabbi Fishbein always says it's better not to vote for Jewish candidates. Which is true. It's always better not to have Jews in office. Usually, first of all, they want to prove how, even from people, they want to prove how fair they are, that they're going to do things that are detrimental to their own community, just to prove how fair they are, when it's things that other people, always did, courtesies that they always showed to the community and things. So, these are things to recall, and whatever it is. So in any event, so then he said I'm sorry, I don't like to use the word goy. It's not a derogatory term. It just means nation. I don't know why people are offended by it, but I know people are. So I'm sorry. I just was quoting the Lashon Rabbi. So then he said that this fellow who won in the end, he won by like 6 votes, something like that. The one who won, not the Jewish guy who was running. So he told him. So like until his dying day, this guy was thankful to Rabbi Fishbane and to the Frum community, and he said, and like he would come every year to the annual dinner in Lava Malka. We have nice videos in Lava Malkas throughout the years, and he said that what did I? So he said he called from his deathbed to apologize that he couldn't make it to the dinner that year. That's what a mensch this guy was. And this other guy's not a much Shtolat Hayom. He didn't learn his lesson. We ask him to come to shul. He never comes. Sometimes we need a tenth for a minyan. That's why we really want to open yeshiva. If anybody wants to come learn in our yeshiva, and if anybody wants to help us buy a house for the shul that could be a dormitory, there are a few houses for sale on the block. So if anybody needs a big tax write-off and they want to do a big mitzvah and help out, and we're going to have a very special type of yeshiva, and we're working on this now. So we'll probably try to do something where they'll learn a trade and maybe get college credits, maybe help them get the GED, but also have very serious learning. And so and it'll be both for Bali Tshuva and for Hamish boys who maybe need a little chizik. Work together for everybody. And Zev is in that, so it'll be a nice program. We're trying to get started, but we do need a dormitory. We only want to keep it small, 6, 8, 10 boys, not bigger than that. Very special type of program. So again, if there are any donors out there who want to help us, it would be a very big mitzvah. Now, so it shows, how. So anyway, this fellow who's running now, Crumley, he told me, just vote if you don't care about the other people who are running, and one of them has got to win. And it's not a difference to you if this one wins or that one wins. He says, just vote for me. That's called bullet voting. And when we have the bullet voting, what it essentially does is it means that the other one doesn't get a vote. So, the one that you're voting for is more likely to win. It's not quite voting for the same person twice, but it's close to it, because meaning the other person has one less vote, and whoever, so it helps this person win. So that's probably what I'm planning to do tomorrow. Never thought of it that way, and I've been working in the board elections for so long, so it's pretty interesting. And the same thing in any elections. Let's say there are 3 seats and you only have one candidate that you like, especially in the small towns. It's a good idea. Now, this here in Bloomingburg, this was really fascinating. How all kinds of things that I've been saying throughout the years. I mean, I told people in Bloomingburg, I said, you better show up for every election, because there are these people who are lying, saying people don't live here, when they of course do. It's very clear they do. I'm hesitant to say it, but in a certain sense, the 2 people who pled guilty in the federal court over the Bloomingburg case are almost committing perjury, because they didn't commit any crime. And meanwhile, this I'm not hesitant to say, and I want the FBI to be on this case. I'm going to get the information together. If someone else wants to help me with this, it would be a big mitzvah to find all the people whose votes were challenged, the votes why challenged, how many of them voted in the village election in 2014, how many of them came back to vote illegally when we know that they live somewhere else, and we can prove that they, we have all the evidence of where they lived at what time, and how that election was actually stolen. And this was encouraged by a letter that went out anonymously, but most likely, that's the other thing, when the voter fraud that the Rural Heritage Party did they knew they were committing a crime, so they did it anonymously. With Mr. Lamb and everything, thought he was following the law. He asked lawyers. He did everything. He dotted every I. He crossed every T. He did everything right. And on some technicality, they're claiming something, and so I guess he's tired of it. I know I never spoke to him about it since this whole story, but it's quite upsetting how the Rural Heritage Party actually stole the election, actually committed voter fraud, and they got away with it. And yet Mr. Lamb and Mr. Nakdieman and Mr. Schmilowitz hasn't pled guilty yet, and I hope he doesn't. I hope he goes and proves that not only he's innocent, but Mr. Lamb and Mr. Nakdieman are also innocent. And I hope by then I've got to get this case together about all the people who voted and in 2014. This is a travesty. This is a dereliction of justice. And but in any event, I always told them in Bloomingburg, go to every election, no matter what, no matter if you don't have a horse in the game. So what I said, for example, the school board elections. They said, well, we don't want to go to the school board elections because they're going to claim that we're trying to take over the school board. So then, and we don't have any interest in the school board, and we want to keep the peace. And I said, well, it would be a bigger peace if you find out who are they voting for, and give your block vote to the other side as kind of an olive branch to show that you want to make peace, but also to prove that you actually live here. And that you're not just, that's not just, and now these posters are all saying the same thing. They're saying, that, we have to go out to vote to show that we actually live here, that we're not just voting in village elections, that we vote in all the elections, which is what I've been saying for years, and I don't know why they didn't come out to vote. I know why they said that. They didn't want people to think that they're trying to take over, but now here, so I don't know who's running in Mamakatimg. It seems like almost everybody's unopposed. I don't know what's going on. I didn't see any voting guides or anything, which independent, PAC groups that are not nonprofits. They're not the congregations. They're separate from the congregations. They do provide voter guides. Maybe if Donald Trump is talking about repealing the Johnson Amendment, so maybe this will. I don't know if it's going to change now, but for now we saw the Johnson Amendment, so we have separate organizations. That's what everybody does. Every religious group has a separate PAC if they're interested in politics, so they can produce, where independent people do this, privately, and not through the funds of the congregation, which is fine, that's not. But it really doesn't make a difference one way or the other. If you do it this way, you do it that way. All the Johnson Amendment does is essentially empowers the richer congregations. They're able to file separately as and the poorer congregations lose out. There is a certain amount of unfairness with the Johnson Amendment, but on the other hand, the Johnson Amendment kind of justifies tax-exempt status and things. I know it's a there are two sides to this, but I'm happy to see. And the other thing that is how they specifically said in one of the posters, "Hasoinei Yisrael Mizeri Yisrael," the haters of Israel from the seed of Israel, meaning the Jewish anti-Semites, the self-hating Jews. This is what I've been talking about for years and years, and people say, "Oh, Kolakowski, you're crazy, you shouldn't talk like this," and here they put it up in a poster, and it's true. That's the Gentiles, the Christians in Bloomingburg are not opposed. It's all Jews and other Democrats and things. Mostly it's or the Republicans who are opposed to, are more like Rhino Republicans. They're not like church going, real real rural people who really, we talk about rural heritage. I mean, the Hasidim are a lot more in line with the rural, ways, like church-going Christian people. The Hasidim are much more similar to that than these people from Manhattan who moved up in the past couple of years, who were trying to escape their Judaism, trying to escape religion, and then they see it right in their face and they're upset about it. So it's a fascinating, from a sociological standpoint, these posters are absolutely fascinating. When I was younger, I used to collect posters more. Now I have too big collections. I have to, downsize a lot of the stuff I have as far as things. But it's very difficult for me to really, to do that. But in any event, that's just, if there's any sociologist who would be interested, I don't know if there's pictures of these on Twitter or anything. I don't think there are. Well, I thought that was maybe a police officer or something, so I slowed down. I really didn't need to slow down. On the other hand, it's good for me to slow down because I kind of need to do my windshield wipers, whatever it is. So 26 minutes, I think that's a long enough video. I'm looking forward to Election Day tomorrow. I'm really wishing that de Blasio wasn't going to be the mayor still on one hand, for the sake of the city. And these are the things that are most difficult about politics with our community, is that we have to make deals with the devil, because there's certain people who are going to win anyway. De Blasio is going to win with or without the Hasidim. Cuomo's going to win with or without the Hasidim. With or without probably even all the Jews in the state of New York, which is a huge number, or maybe not without all the Jews in New York City. But still, maybe if all the Jews got together, but you're not going to convince the secular Jews, and even a lot of the left-wing modern Orthodox, you're not going to convince them to vote for anybody but de Blasio. So it's a very difficult situation what we have there. But in essence, it's we're voting for people whose values are radically different than ours, just because they're doing favors to us. And that's one reason why I can't live in the city. Because when I live in the country, I can vote for, and people are like, well, what difference it makes? To me, it makes a big difference. In Eretz Yisrael, there's this whole thing, we don't want to vote to Zionim and this and that. So, how is it okay that we vote for people like de Blasio just because he's helping us, with things that we care about? But we got to look at the big picture of what's good for the whole city, not just our own community. And if whatever, meaning he's giving us freedoms that probably wouldn't give other groups, in a sense. I mean, because you see what happened now with the marriage laws in New York State. First, Cuomo, does this whole thing with the redefinition of marriage, and then he raises the marriage age. And, it doesn't make sense to me, if you care about love and marriage, and it's all about what difference does it make if two 16-year-old kids want to get married and their parents give them approval and a judge gives them approval? I mean, you should have enough trust in the judicial system that you're not going to have a judge who's going to put together a marriage that's not, whatever. I mean, this whole thing, it's very strange to me. So